Hello everyone, my name is Josh and welcome back to my channel where I'm bringing you weekly vlogs and or acting content. Today, I am finally filming a video that I've been wanting to do for a while. The Oscars 2021, my overview of some of the movies that I've watched and my opinions on the nominated actors for each acting category. I watched a total of 8 films. In the acting categories, there are a total of 12 films, but some of them were blocked by a paywall. So I didn't want to pay extra money, so I just sufficed with what I had on Netflix and Amazon Prime. I am going to be going over the films individually and giving my initial reactions to the films as if I was an audience member, just a casual viewer with the mind of an actor. I will also be going over each nomination in each category, and then at the end I will give you my opinions on who should win each category. Alright, if that sounds interesting, let's jump right into it. Starting off with one of the first films that I've watched, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and yes, it does sound the way it sounds. But that's not what it's about. It's about a musician and her band within the 1920s. This is when racism was very much alive. This is one of those films that talk about these kinds of things. There seems to be a lot of films that talk about racism and slavery within the past decade because it is a relevant and very important topic to talk about within today's society because it is still very much alive. Not slavery, but racism. Racism lives in our society and is very much alive. But this takes it in a different perspective, without blatantly coming out and saying, the problems with racism. It comes in the form of these musicians coming together in this one place, this recording studio, and they talk about their experiences with racism one by one, casually brought up as they begin to dig deeper and talk about their own lives. Ma Rainey is the boisterous of the bunch, the most boisterous. She stands up to the studio producers, which are white, which is a very bold of her since they have so-called white superiority over her during that time period. Luckily, because she's such a star, they wouldn't have done anything, they wouldn't have retaliated against her, but still very bold of a black woman going against a white man in that time period. I won't talk about these actors specifically just yet. Moving on, one of the other movies that I've seen, Sound of Metal. I like this movie a lot. It is about a musician in a metal band with his girlfriend. They're on the road, they're living the tour life. Spoiler alert, he suddenly loses his hearing and he has to learn to cope in the world with being deaf. And so he's trying to get this surgery. It is a lot of money. He ends up not having the money to get the surgery, so he seeks help elsewhere. He goes to this isolated place where he meets the founder of the group, and he has this whole school and this whole learning program for people who are learning to cope with their deafness. It ends up leading with the main character of this movie having to get this surgery. He basically, disregards everything the founder of this program is telling him. He gets this surgery, he sells his RV, he sells everything to get this surgery, and when he finally gets it, it's not what it's cracked up to be. He's very disappointed because everything is this distorted sound all around him. And it's just not the life he wants to live. And after being reunited with his girlfriend, after separating with her while he goes to this retreated area, or this isolated area, he reunites with her, and then at the end, he just disregards the surgery. And he realizes that he needs to cope with his new circumstances. I think the story is very beautiful. This film is particularly very much about sound design. because it goes back and forth to what us as an audience is hearing, and then it goes to his own hearing, and then what we experience if we were in his shoes, him being deaf, the silence, the distortedness after he gets the surgery. Just very impeccable sound design. I think it has an award, a nominated award for sound design also, but just great film. I really recommend it. Moving on, Mank. This is a David Fincher movie, very formalistic, very stylistic. David Fincher is all about style. This is filmed in like it was a 1930s film. It has visual flickers, audio flickers, black and white, very echoey, distorted sound, as if it was filmed in that time period. One of the main characters, Herman Mankiewicz, is a very influential writer at the time. He's trying to gain his reputation in Hollywood. This is the transition between the silent film era and the talkie film era, so it's very competitive and people are just making films like that. He joins MGM and it goes through his life with MGM. As he's dealing with health problems and alcoholism, he is writing one of his best works yet. It doesn't come out and blatantly say it in the movie, but he is writing Citizen Kane, which is one of the most worldwide known film of all time. And as he's writing this film, he is being checked up on by the studio. Orson Welles is directing or producing these films at the time, because once the talkie film era was really starting to get going, a lot of people took play adaptations and turned them into film adaptations, and Orson Welles was one of the main contributors to that. Next film, The Trial of the Chicago 7. This was a movie taking place in the civil rights era during the Vietnam War. These protesters go out and they protest against the Vietnam War because it's not doing any good for American society, and it's only hurting people. And so these people from different areas, 7 people, they go out and they try to make a difference. They try to form a peaceful protest, which turns wrong, and then it ends up with a brutality crime against them versus the police. This is off of a true story, same as Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. It's very informative, insightful to what was going on at the time. It gives, like I said, a different perspective of civil rights, and black people aren't the focus of this movie, but it is a main part of it because it deals with a black man who is convicted with murder and is wrongly accused along with this case. Very cinematic movie, very entertaining to watch. I found this to be one of the most entertaining ones to watch overall. Moving on to the next movie, One Night in Miami, another civil rights movie. This deals with Malcolm X, Cassius Clay, who then later becomes known as Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown, and then James Cook. The 4 of them were, best buddies. They would hang around. They're very important activists at the time, and they were all doing what they could to bring justice to the black community, and except James Cook, who wasn't really doing anything except be a white man's puppet. And so the film kind of goes around James Cook and him eventually being persuaded to make a difference. And I think the acting in this is amazing. It gives more insight to some very important historical figures. This, like Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, takes place in practically one area, which is a hotel room. And it's like almost like an intervention. It's a very interesting style of telling a story. The next movie that I've seen, Pieces of a Woman. This actually included Shia LaBeouf in it. I'm very surprised. It's a very serious movie. Spoiler alerts also for this one. It's about this couple who is dealing with the loss of a stillbirth child. and a midwife who is accused of killing the baby because since the mother refuses to go to the hospital, then they try so hard to have the baby in their own home, which is one of the reasons why the baby dies. But this goes through how they're coping with the experience afterwards in very negative ways, like drugs. They resort to cheating, alcoholism, and it just ends sour. They break off the relationship. This isn't just about a couple's experience with this child. It's also about a mother and her daughter's experience with each other. Like, this grown woman's mother still has control over her life, and then at the end, when she is put on trial as a witness against this midwife, she basically throws the case away as if she was blowing it right into her mother's face, as if, I'm not going to do what you're telling me to do anymore. I can be my own woman. And this movie is not only interesting for character development, but it also has this one particular symbol that is throughout the movie, which is an apple. It's very subtle at first, because this woman really likes, she likes to eat apples. But then after the stillbirth, she's eating the apple on a train, and she spits a seed out as she's looking among the other children and their parents around her, and the seed represents her unborn child. And she takes on a hobby of trying to grow these seeds. I forgot what it was called. Sprouting, I think, if I'm not wrong. She takes on this hobby. She's trying to grow these seeds. They don't grow, and at the very end, they do start to grow, which is her sign of hope, which leads to the very end of an orchard, a huge tree of apples, and this mother's real daughter, who is playing in the tree. And this is a very beautiful film, a very, not so entertaining, but very somber, cathartic, and thought-provoking. And I really enjoyed it for what it was. The next movie, Borat, subsequent movie film. This is the second movie of Borat. This one's particularly interesting, just like the original Borat. It takes place... It's a candid camera style film with comedy overlaid over it, and it deals with very political issues that are very relevant in the U.S. today, and it basically just seeks out the hypocrisy of American politics. And I think it's a very interesting and hilarious movie to watch. It's just very unique, and it is one of the only few comedies on this list. Next movie, Hillbilly Elegy. I think this is the last one, if I'm not mistaken. Hillbilly Elegy is a very cinematic piece of a redneck family who cope with each other, being around with each other. It deals with a junkie mom who is abusive towards her children, and how these children grow up and how they take care of her in her life. And one of the main characters in this film, the grandmother, takes on one of the main characters in the film, J.D. Vance, who is the son of his abusive mother. She sees that he's not being responsible. He's not taking care of his work. He's hanging around with the wrong people, and he's doing drugs. And she basically gives him a wake-up call. And she is, unlike her daughter, is very strict, and he makes sure he does what he needs to do, even though he doesn't like it. But she wants to make sure that he ends up succeeding in life, while most of their family wasn't able to get the opportunity as he did. And he goes on to go to Yale University, and he is applying for these big internships, which he eventually gets, which it implies at the end. Those are all of the movies. And now I'm going to move on to each category and talk about the actors for just a little bit. The first category, actress in a leading role. Viola Davis, she plays Ma Rainey in Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. She's a very boisterous character. She stands up to the white man. The hurt that she deals with in one of her monologues, she talks about how she's only used for her voice, and after that, they couldn't care less about her. Same with, black people at the time. Nobody cared about them, and they were just tossed to the side. They were used for their talent. They were used to amuse white people, and that was it. It's very disgusting behavior. But she just is a light in this movie, and just shows women empowerment, and just shows that she can stand up for herself, even though she's not in the best position. So very, very lovely, convincing performance. Vanessa Kirby, who played in Pieces of a Woman, she played the mother in the movie with the loss of her child. As Viola Davis's character, a lot of hurt, and I think she has a very great approach to this movie, or a very great performance, because she emulates childbirth so well. I was just like watching it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like, it was intense. It was eerie just to hear just her voice, the way she was screaming, and it was just very uncomfortable to watch in a good way. And she goes through this transformation and learns to cope with not having a child to having a child. It's a very beautiful, melancholy performance. And that was in that category, that was 2 out of 5 movies that I've seen and actresses that I've seen. Moving on to the next category, actress in a supporting role. Maria Bakalova. She is a Bulgarian actress who played in this Borat subsequent movie film. She just finished training at the National Academy for Theater and Film Arts in Bulgaria. And right after her training, she was put on to this movie. And this was one of the first movies she's been in. And so the thing about Borat is that it has to be filmed in one take. They have to get the genuine reaction of these people. Otherwise, they couldn't progress the story. And so they had to get it in the first take. And the interesting thing about Borat also is that the writers were writing as each scene progressed, because the people, the live people, not actors, who were interacting with these actors, their reactions depended on where the movie went. And so that's another very interesting about thing about this movie. Sacha Baron Cohen also plays Borat in this movie. He is also on this list. Amazing actor. I will get to him shortly. Glenn Close, Hillbilly Elegy. She plays the grandmother in the movie. She is I saw the transformation from her. She went from like middle-aged woman to grandma of like 70s years old, and just her performance alone is very gut-wrenching. It was like she was pushing. You could see how she wanted to push JD to be better than how she was, how her daughter turned out, and she just wanted what was best for her grandchildren. And she, even though she was very strict, she did what was necessary to make them in a position to make something out of themselves. A very lovely, convincing performance, really good. Amanda Seyfried, if I'm pronouncing that correct. She played Marion Davies in Mank. She was Herman Mankiewicz's advisor / friend. She was a famous actress at the time, and she helped him shape who he was, or like helped him figure out who he was. And she was just, she played a very important part in Herman Mankiewicz's life. And it was necessary for her to be in the movie to show his progression as a character, and her progression as a character also, and their relationship. Moving on to the next category, actor in a supporting role. Sacha Baron Cohen, I just spoke about him. He was in The Trial of the Chicago 7. He played a comedian. And even though he was a comedian, Sacha Baron Cohen is mostly known for his comedies. He played a very serious role. It was kind of ironic for the the role that he was playing, but it was very serious because he wanted to. His character wanted to use the trial to, for the people. He wanted it to be about the people who were fighting the Vietnam War, and he didn't want it to be. He didn't want to have the emphasis put on them specifically. They wanted it on the protesters and the soldiers fighting the war. But as I was saying, he played a very important part in the movie, and even though he was a supporting character, the main focus was put on him, and I think he just, delivered a great performance. This person, Leslie Odom Jr., he is most known for his role in the musical Hamilton. Also, he played in Harriet. He has a very amazing voice. I can see why they casted him for the role of James Cook as this famous black musician. Like Sacha Baron Cohen, his character was a supporting, but had one of the main focuses of the movie, and his experience with white people and how he was just used as a puppet was realized at the very end, and he wanted to make something out of his career, and so it led to him creating something that can help people of color and help their agenda move forward. A great performance, loved it. Paul Raci, he played the founder of the Deaf Society in the movie Sound of Metal. I don't have too much to say about him. He played the role of a mentor. He was mentoring Riz Ahmed's character, who is the main character in this movie. He's mentoring him to go through his life, how to cope with his deafness and how his new circumstances, how to deal with it. And he, created one of the problems, but it driven the story forward, which was him cutting off all connection with his girlfriend and family and all of that. I think he had a very, humble performance. Not too much to say about him, but it was really good nonetheless. Moving on to the next and final category, actor in a leading role. Riz Ahmed, the main character in Sound of Metal. This is about his transformation as he deals with his new circumstances in the movie, of him living a life of deafness and how it leads to him just, giving up his ability to hear in the very end because it wasn't worth it to him anymore. And it's not only about his deafness, but it's about his relationship with his girlfriend and how he reconnects with her after they've lost contact for so long. And just a very somber movie. Chadwick Boseman. If you don't know, the late Chadwick Boseman, either late last year or early this year, I don't remember when he died, but he died of cancer. Great actor who played in, most known for Black Panther Avengers, and 42, which was about Jackie Robinson, and this movie. His character experienced a lot of hurt with racism. He has a mentally disturbed character who has this ambition to create his own band and make something for himself in this society, but he finds out that it's not what it seems, and he is turned down for his music opportunities by this music producer. He offers to buy the song off of him. He sells his song, essentially selling his soul, because at the very end he is just metaphorically spat in the face, because his song is given for a white band to perform, and it shows how Black people were used for their talent and not for who they were. And Just very lovely performance. Wow, it was just a lot to take in. Gary Oldman played Herman Mankiewicz in Mank. A very lovely performance also. He goes through, his transformation of climbing up the ladder in Hollywood, being at the top, falling, and then being washed up as an alcoholic in the very end. His character has a lot of health problems, resorts to alcoholism, but Gary Oldman's performance overall, he comes off very genuine to, his friend in the movie, very genuine, and just creates this very amazing monologue at the very end, where he is, trying to pitch his story in front of the founder of MGM, basically, he's basically mocking him, and just a great performance. But now, the moment of truth, I'm going to have my picks for each category of who I think will win the Oscars. Starting off with actress in a leading role, I think it was a very hard decision. Vanessa Kirby, overall, had a better performance because of, her being able to emulate childbirth, the kind of research that she most likely put into this, the amount of thinking she would have done to get her in the mindset of this woman who has lost her child and has lost pretty much everything. It's just a very beautiful performance. It has to go to her. Actress in a supporting role. It was either between Maria Bakalova or Glenn Close. I would give it to Maria Bakalova because not only because this is the only comedy, Borat's the only comedy in this list, but because she comes straight out of training and to do this experiential film, and where she has to do this in one take and get it right, and just give this hilarious, this humble performance at the same time. And I truly, I believe that she deserves actress in a supporting role. Actor in a supporting role, it was either between Sacha Baron Cohen and Leslie Odom Jr. Both great actors, both very similar character types with the role they play in the movie. But I'm a little biased. I think The Trial of the Chicago 7 was overall a better movie than One Night in Miami. And therefore, because of his performance and, playing this serious role within, this comedic type of character, I would have to give it to Sacha Baron Cohen. And finally, actor in a leading role was between Riz Ahmed and Chadwick Boseman. A very hard decision because they are both very great actors and they've had this wonderful transformation within their movies and just their character work. But I think Chadwick Boseman had this hurt, probably something that hits close to home too. Within this movie, the ability to play a mentally disturbed character was just wow. It was just a very interesting character overall, and man. I think, like they did with Heath Ledger, they are going to pay homage to Chadwick Boseman for the work that he's done throughout his career and his legacy. And so, therefore, I am going to give the actor in a leading role award to Chadwick Boseman. So there you have it. Those are my picks and my overview of the movie. I know this might have been a long video, but I really wanted to be thorough and get through this. And, this is something I've been wanting to do for a while. These are all great actors. The Oscars are not the end-all be-all to if you're a great actor or not. No matter if you are training to be an actor right now, or if you're aspiring to be an actor, or if you've been in the acting world for a long time and you haven't, gotten to that level where you're satisfied with and you feel down, you don't feel good about yourself. It doesn't matter. The Oscars are not the end all be all. It doesn't define you as a person, and it doesn't define you as an actor. These are just great films that they've picked and great actors that they've picked. And this does not define anything. Just know that if you're an actor struggling, training, on top of your game, that's all that matters. You're creating art. That's what matters. So I'm going to end it there. Thank you all for watching. Please like and subscribe because I worked really hard on this video. If you're watching, really appreciate you. I will have another Oscar video coming up this week with my live reactions, so stay tuned to that. And with that, I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.